Hey, it's Brian coming at you from house arrest. And this week on house arrest, it is Christmas Eve today. So, Merry Christmas. This is actually the third Christmas that has happened since I was taken into custody, which is kind of crazy to think about. But here it is, the third one, and hopefully the final one. After this, I think I'll have one more on parole, and then I'll be done with this whole thing. So in honor of this holiday season, I'm going to do a little something with the vacation time that I have from work. I get 16 hours of vacation time, which is 2 shifts off of work, paid vacation for the year. What I'm going to do is take those 2 days and then call in sick for another 2 days so that I have a whole week off, and I'm going to do a self meditation retreat here in my room. So for those of you who don't know, what that means is that I'm going to take this 7, or I think it's going to end up being like 8 or 9 days maybe, period of time where I'm just going to basically sit in my room and alternate between sitting in my room and just kind of walking back and forth in the backyard so I don't get too cramped up, and just practicing mindfulness all day, every day. That means no talking to anybody, no phones, no screens, no nothing to distract myself, just practicing mindfulness. Now, why the hell would a person ever do this? The reason I'm doing it is because I'm an extreme person and I like to do extreme things, and I like to do crazy things that nobody else is doing. That's not really it. The reason why I'm interested in doing this is because of a couple reasons that I'm going to tell you about. One reason is because I've been interested in mindfulness forever. For years, I've always enjoyed thinking about mindfulness, and I liked the philosophy of it, and I thought it made sense, and so I was really into it, like intellectually, right? But I didn't practice that much. But I was interested in it enough to go on a couple of meditation retreats. I've been on like 3 different, I think at least 3 different meditation retreats before, like formal meditation retreats where you actually go to a center or go to a place where people are conducting a meditation retreat, and you go and you sit and you meditate all day and you listen to the Dharma talks. I've done it in the context of like Buddhist meditation retreats. And those have lasted, anywhere from I think a week to 14 days, I think is the longest one I did, 12 or 14 days. And while doing those retreats was extremely valuable in a lot of ways, back then my head wasn't really in a space of, I didn't have much discipline. And so when I was on the retreats, I would easily get restless, and I would, take long walks in the hills, and instead of doing the sits, or find my way down to like some town nearby and, go into town and like eat food or something. I just didn't have the centeredness and the determination that I have since been trying to develop so ardently. I have to say that my first like real experience of what the power of a dedicated period of mindfulness practice can do was since I was arrested, when I was in the fish tank, really. For those of you who don't know what the fish tank is a kind of a purgatory period between county jail and actual prison, where they process you and decide where you're going to be placed within the state's prison system. So what happens is you get sentenced in county jail, and then you get shipped over to the place that the prisoners call the fish tank, and that's basically a situation where you're put in a cell, a very small cell, and left there while they, process everybody out. You basically get in a line, and while you wait in line, you're basically waiting in this cell. And that can take up to, it's supposed to take a couple of weeks, but in my case, it took like a month and a half. The only time that you get out of the cell is for 15 minutes every 3rd day. And what you can do when you're out of the cell is just be in the hallway, and there's a phone there, so you can make a phone call if you want, and there's a shower, so you could take a shower if you want. So you basically either take a quick shower and make a quick phone call or pick between, one of the two. I actually found a picture online, like a stock photo of what that, hallway looks like. This is pretty much what it looks like. That's almost precisely what it looks like. At least where I was, that's what it looked like. And the rest of the time you are just in the cell. And this is kind of what the cell looks like. This one's a little dirtier, but not really that much dirtier. And the other thing about this picture is that there's no bunks in there, but there were bunks in the cell that I was in. So I was on the top bunk, and then my cellmate was on the lower bunk. The only other difference in the cell that I was in was there was a window, so you could see out to like a couple other parts of the prison, and then the desert landscape of Carson City, Nevada. And I was in a couple of different cells throughout the experience, so I had a couple of different views, but that's about it. So besides getting out for that 15 minutes every third day, the only thing that really happens is that you get fed twice a day. Your meal tray comes through a slot in the door, and that's it. The only other thing to do is just sit in that cell and look out that window and just watch the sun, move across the ground to try to guess, what time it is maybe. And you could just sit in there and go crazy or basically practice mindfulness as far as I was concerned. I'm so lucky that I had this background of thinking about mindfulness so much, because then I was able to apply that while I was in there. I was already practicing mindfulness some, once I got off the hard drugs, once I stopped withdrawing in county jail, I immediately, we were in the cell a lot in there as well, and so I immediately started practicing mindfulness a lot more in there. And then, but once I got to the fish tank, which is the most dreaded part of the whole prison experience for most prisoners, if you ask them, that actually was my favorite part of the whole experience. I actually long for that sometimes when out in the world again and dealing with everything else. It just seems kind of nice to just be in there, which might sound insane to you, but honestly, that space that I had after being in that cell for a month, it didn't really help that I had a crazy cellie. He was really out of his mind and kind of it's really intense and hard to deal with sometimes. But I had been practicing enough mindfulness that I was able to set good boundaries with him and let him know, hey, this is what I'm doing. I'm treating this as a retreat kind of. And he was respectful, although he was pretty out of his mind. But after having sat in that cell for a month and a half, I really got to experience what that can do to just your psychology and your state of well-being. I was when we got out of the fish tank, I was glowing, man. I was just locked into something in a way that I had always wanted to be in my life before. I'd always imagined what, being that disciplined and focused and diligent about doing a practice like that could do, but I just really got to experience it after that, and it was awesome. And since then, that has that has stayed with me, that experience. I've been able to carry that through, what I've learned from it, and just kind of keep a little bit of that glow and awareness going. But it has been fading over time since then, and especially since I've been out back in the world, because after that fish tank experience, I went to camp, which is a prison work camp, the firefighting camp that I was at for 7 months before I got out on house arrest. So especially since I've been out on house arrest, being back in the world, dealing with regular things again, I've just watched myself get caught back up in the world. And that natural glow that I think we all have underneath all of the mess in our minds, that I had, brought out, from all that mindfulness practice, has started to fade a little bit, again. And although I have kept up with a pretty regular mindfulness practice, it's still, the world wears on us, man. The world is a it's a place that is not conducive to shining through, like, our real selves being able to shine through and like really connect with our lives. The world we live in just doesn't do that for us at all. It's actually the opposite of that. One way I've been thinking about it is just if you picture like a snow globe that's just has sand that's settled at the bottom, and then and just water in it, and if you kind of just shake that up a little bit over time, and that sand just gets up into the water, it just gets cloudier and cloudier. And that's what being in the world is like. It's like all of the things and the obligations and just the people and the circumstances that we are constantly reacting to or having to respond to or having to deal with, and just all the ways that our attention is being pulled. Not only just that with the external things, but then just this close awareness that's so close that we can't even see it most of the time, of ourselves, like this idea of ourselves, our ego, if you will, that all of that attention is reflecting off of and getting mixed up in just our ego and the way that we're, all the things are being filtered through our ego, and just what it gets so confusing. And so, the clarity is just like you can't see through that thing. But a period of intensive mindfulness practice, to me, seems like what it does is it stops that thing from shaking, and it allows all that sand to just start to settle to the bottom. And then you can get to start to have an actual clear picture of where you're at in your life, and like what the bigger picture is, and what really matters, and what really is important for you to be spending your attention on, your limited resources of attention on. The world we live in just wants your attention in every way, all the time, and it's hard to just come back to center when we're like so lost in that haze, So that's what I'm doing here. I don't want to lose touch with what I learned and what I gained from the long periods of mindfulness that I was able to practice while in prison. I want to kind of anchor myself again. So that's what I'm going to do. I'll probably talk a little bit more about the specifics of what that looks like, or what that's going to look like next week on the next video. I will be starting this thing probably right around the time that the next video, is posted, which is next Sunday. But I'll keep you updated on what's going on with it and how it's going. Yeah, that's kind of what's going on with me right now. Anyway, Merry Christmas, everybody, and I hope you're well and not too stressed out, and really enjoying the people who matter in your life. Quick shout out to Big Nasty, Nate. Thanks for watching these videos and commenting and staying in touch, man. Nate's hit me up at some point after I got out of prison, and he's just been in touch, and it's been really nice, and it means a lot. It means more to me than he probably knows. So thank you for just staying in touch and being a friend, and just humoring me by watching this shit. Thank you. The support really means a lot. Speaking of Nate, I really recommend that you check out the song of the week this week. It's a song by Alec Shaw, and it is called Spinning. And I've linked a YouTube link in the description, which I recommend you check out that live version, because it's really awesome. It's from this KEXP performance that they did about a year ago, I think, probably. It's really cool to see Alec, just the way he emotes. It's just so passionate, and he's got such a cool voice. And if you watch through it, you can actually catch Nate in there thumping away on the bass, doing what he does best, and just killing it and holding it down. So check that out. I'll also put the Spotify and Apple Music link to that song, but definitely check out the YouTube videos. Very cool. Hey, I guess I didn't push record properly on my last shot where I said goodbye and see you next week, but I'm not going to set everything back up right now, so bye, see you next week.